Sunshine of Your Love gives us a good chance to talk about the continuation of the blues influence that we'd seen earlier in British invasion music during the 60s. Seeing that sort of continue to develop into the second half of the 1960s. Eric Clapton, of course, famous for having left the Yardbirds just when they were getting most commercial, going off to play with John Mayall, eventually coming back to form Cream along with bassist Jack Bruce and drummer Ginger Baker. Maybe one of the first real sort of rock supergroups in a certain sense, taking people who had success with other projects and sort of putting them together. Eric Clapton at this point had a tremendous amount of prestige in the rock world because he had been such a dedicated and devoted person when it came to the authenticity of the blues that he was playing. Cream, though, a very commercial band in many ways, but a lot of what they were doing based on blues. Sunshine of Your Love was a #5 hit for them in 1968, went to #25 in the UK. Words and music by Eric Clapton, Jack Bruce, and Pete Brown, who sort of helped with some of the lyrics to the tune here. A power trio, electric guitar, bass, drums, and the lead vocal shared between Eric Clapton and Jack Bruce. It's a simple verse form. Every verse doing exactly the same thing, just like we would see in some of the other simple verse forms that we've talked about. This one, each verse is 24 measures in length, but if you count it the right way, making sure that every 2 measures counts as 1 measure, it fits pretty much into a 12-bar blues structure. So what they've really just done is taking the 12-bar blues, augmented or sustained it in an interesting kind of way to 24 measures, then basically repeated it with 2 verses of sung vocals and then an instrumental verse with an Eric Clapton guitar solo, then a return to the 3rd verse at the end of the song, and then a fade out on that. It's a lick-based tune, so that first line that you hear on the guitar and bass at the beginning is a kind of a lick that repeats again and again in the tune. That also something that comes from the blues tradition, especially Chicago electric blues, which was very much an influence on Eric Clapton as a developing blues guitar player. So what you get here is maybe something that is much heavier in a lot of kinds of ways than what groups that were more song-oriented, like the Beatles, were doing during the second half of the 1960s, but very much paves the way for groups that would come along like Led Zeppelin and Deep Purple, which would be much more guitar-driven, blues-oriented, electric blues-oriented kind of groups that would spell out the direction for blues rock in the 1970s. So here it is, Eric Clapton, Jack Bruce, Ginger Baker, Cream, and Sunshine of Your Love.